Well, actually, a very tiny one right below this. So,
Hello, you hear me?
Hello.
You hear me?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
So you are starting the meeting at what time? This is Bernard Ombadi
6
from Kenya.
6 p.m. GMT, say.
6 p.m. GMT.
Yes, please.
So I'm in East Africa. That's mean it's 9.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Yeah, Lydia. Yeah, good evening, sir. Please, the meeting is at 6 p.m. GMT. If you're in Kenya or East Africa, that will be around 9 p.m. East African time. If you're in Nigeria, probably it's around 7 p.m. by then. So exactly 6 p.m. we are going to start. Yes. So if you are from Kenya, kindly hold on. The meeting will start at exactly 6 p.m. Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
So you can
Thank you.
share the link.
Thank you, noted.
You're welcome. You're also live on YouTube. I'll share the YouTube link. Okay. And then we'll start at 7 p.m. like I said. Thank you very much.
As we are waiting for the rest to join, let me use this opportunity to outline the meeting agenda. So we'll be having our opening prayer sheets with us at 6 p.m. GMT. From there, we'll have our welcome address by the founder of Ugccsa, that's the University of Ghana Climate Change and Sustainability Students Association. From there, we'll also have a 20-minute session for our first speaker. After, we'll take the question and answer session for the first speaker. That's 10 minutes. Every speaker gets 20 minutes and gets question and answers for 10 minutes. Then we'll have our vote of thanks by the Public Relations Officer for University of Ghana Climate Change and Sustainability Students Association, Mr. Bernardo Boko, to give the vote of thanks. Then we'll end with a prayer as well. That's our closing prayer. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. We are here waiting for the meeting. Oh, I'm doing a meeting. Don't make noise.
Okay, it's exactly 6 p.m. GMT. We will have our closing prayer. Our opening prayer by Sadina Duncan. So Sadina, if you are here, kindly lead us.
All right. I begin my prayer in the name of the Father and of the Son. Dear God, we gather today as individuals from different backgrounds, united by our concern for the well-being of our planet. As we embark on this climate workshop, we ask for your guidance and your wisdom. Help us to listen deeply, to learn from each other, and to discern the path that will lead us towards a more sustainable future. May we be inspired by the beauty and resilience of the natural world, and may we be motivated to preserve such beauty. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Fatima. So next on the agenda, we are going to receive a welcome address and an opening remarks by the founder of the University of Ghana Climate Change and Sustainability Students Association. He's in the person of Mr. Nfa Amadou, barrister.
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Barrister, you have the floor.
Yes. Thank you very much. I want to welcome all of you to this special program, Charlie. You see, I'm sharing the screen. So on behalf of the patrons, we have two patrons. One is here to speak to us. The other one is the director for Center for Climate Change. And on behalf of the alumni and past students and everyone, I want to welcome all of you to this special program. For those of you who don't know what the association, I want to use this medium, just 2 minutes, to introduce it to all of you. So University of Ghana Climate Change and Sustainability Students Association is located at University of Ghana campus. We are registered under the Dean of Students. Okay. So basically, it's not only for students who are reading climate change, students from other departments are part of us. So this is our first workshop we organized last year, and it was very successful. So this is the second edition of it. And beside the workshop, we have a lot of activities that we undertake as student organization. So you can see I'm sharing the screen. These are some of the programs or activities that we undertook in just 1 year. That was just last year. So the one on your left corner. We visited some senior high schools. We planted some trees. We engaged in cleanup exercise. Okay, we also organized workshop as part of capacity building for some of our students. Okay, we also do some class engagement. This is just this semester, so I'm sure some level 100 students are here. So we came to your class to engage some of you. So this was some of the class engagement we've had. These are other online programs that we partnered. Okay, yes. So these are many more. So I want to welcome all of you to this special one. By the close of this program, I'm going to share a link to in the chat box. Okay, so anyone who is here, you fill the form, you will get certificate of attendance. Okay, and I want to welcome all our speakers to thank you so much for being here with us, and we are hoping we have a very insightful session. Hand over to you, Lydia. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the address. We have our next agenda, which is the introduction of the first speaker. So our first speaker is in the person of Dr. Yao Ajim. Or Dr. Matthew Bob.
Hey.
Any of them will be presenting to us today. And we are going to talk about or discuss how young people can influence climate policies and engage in activism. So how young people can take the lead in addressing climate change and working to influence climate change. So that's Dr. Yao Ajimai Boafo. Welcome, say.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm sure it's evening everywhere. It could be morning somewhere, but welcome to this workshop or to this webinar. And I want to commend the organizers for putting this together. It's always nice to have a platform to share ideas, to be able to engage ourselves to drive action towards a climate resilient future. Because the reality is that we are in crisis. We are in a crisis period, and the only way we can address this crisis is when we work together as a team. So wherever you are in Africa, wherever you are in the world, the small amount of work you're doing is important for addressing, climate change. So I'm happy to today talk about youth-led climate action, and awareness as well as policy advocacy, which I think is very important because, we hear a lot about the fact that the youth are the future. I mean, as much as that statement is true, we're already in the future. And so I think that youth are the present. Youth make, and are supposed to be important decision making. Anytime you say youth are the future, it means that, you can relegate them to the background and say, okay, you are the future, so don't worry about decision making now. Let the, in quotes, adults or let the older people make decisions. So I think we should stop saying youth are the future and say youth are the present. We should take up decisions. So can we try and mute the other person, please? I don't know who's that. Can we mute the other person? Okay, good. So I'm going to try and do this in 20 minutes. I hope it's not going to be longer than that. And so in doing so, I'll take you through these key issues. I mean, not strictly according to the order, but I'll try and, start with something brief on what climate change is, the evidence that supports it. And then, I mean, because this is coming from Ghana, I'll try and highlight one or two impacts from Ghana, but it applies to many other African countries. So I believe you may find your own examples in your country. And then we'll look at who really are the youth. I think it's important to establish that fact, even for academic reasons and also for practical reasons. And then we can go to some key reasons why youth-led climate action is important. We look at some examples, and then we can also highlight some of the actions that have been done across the world and also within Ghana. And then we draw to a conclusion by trying to understand some of the Did somebody raise their hand? I've seen somebody raise their hand. Is there a problem there? Okay, I think the
No.
administrator should be taking care of these ones. I'll go on with my presentation. If there's anything, you can always pause. And so yes, so this is basically what I'm trying to go and to take you guys through to let you appreciate why this topic is so important. Okay, so to start with, I'll highlight a few things. There's a lot of data available to discuss or talk about climate change and evidence that exists and why it's scientifically proven. If any of you has read the IPCC reports over the years, if you pick the reports that came from IPCC from 1994 all the way to 2022, the language keeps changing. The language on the verifiability of climate change or the amount of evidence that we are finding keeps supporting what we are saying is scientific. And so there's more and more data across the world in different communities, different continents that supports the fact that the global climate is changing or has changed. And that requires a change in our way of life or a change in the behavior of human beings. And one of the most basic or fundamental elements that we use to talk about climate change is temperatures. Because when you wake up in the morning, the kind of temperature that supports you or that you come to experience goes a long way to influencing what you do or what you don't do. But evidence from different global meteorological stations over the years being collected since let's say 1920s is shown that we've had a significant rise in global temperatures. And this is also sometimes linked to what we call pre-industrial times, because the great period of industrialization, if you think about it from 1800s coming down all the way, those are the periods that led to huge production of greenhouse gases, artificial greenhouse gases, which then has significantly influenced the natural greenhouse gas system. That's also impacting the climatic conditions all over the world. So there's that evidence, and if you see the graph below, you see clearly that the trends kept changing, and it keeps rising and rising and rising. And that's what we are talking about, the significant increase in at 1.1%, or even sometimes some people the 1.2% increase in temperature is quite significant. It has huge impact on different kinds of species, both on land and in water. So this is evidential, okay? And by this evidence, we are also seeing more and more incidents of extreme weather conditions. Extreme because once in a while, let's say once in 50 years, you find a massive flood or maybe extreme heat wave or drought in some part of the world. But now it's becoming common. It's like every year you have, extreme heat. You have droughts in different parts of the world. And that is becoming a common trend. And that norm is also a problem. It's not just happening in one place, it's happening in many, many places. And so that's also something that there's evidence to show that. And that's partly also because we've seen an increase in CO2 emissions all over the world. And CO2 is one of the most important gases or greenhouse gases. That's, a huge concentration in the atmosphere significantly impacts on, biodiversity, which also impacts on different kinds of livelihood systems. And with the heat that we are experiencing, with the more higher temperatures, we are also seeing the melting of ice at significantly higher rates. And when all the ice melts, where do they go to? They go into the sea. It's basically all your water that you use, most of them ends up in the sea, apart from those that evaporate. But the ice goes in the sea, that also leads to sea level rise. That also has implications. And so we are seeing many island communities being lost. If you know about the SITs are the small island developing states. All those many, many small islands in the ocean, in South America and Central America, they're all, vulnerable to rise sea level, which again is a big chance. And significantly, all of these are impacting different kinds of biological diversity, which will impact our food system. So wherever you are, the food system that you are benefiting from, they're all being impacted because of climate change. So there's a lot of evidence to this effect. And if you want more, I think you have to be prepared to read the data that exists to give you that evidence that climate change is not a hoax, or climate change is not a make-up by scientists, but we need to pay attention to it. If you come down to Ghana, for instance, in Ghana, the evidence of climate change is already clear. It's clear in many parts of the country. In fact, if you go to the northern part, this is a map of Ghana that is showing you the, different. If you go to the northern part where, let's say, dominantly agriculture, more than 70% of the people are involved in agriculture, drought is a major concern. All their water runs dry in the course of the dry season. The soils are poor. Animals are dying because they can't get, what they call water to drink. It's also a huge concern. new diseases are emerging because of also the problem of climate change. And even older ones are also happening. So those are also key challenges. If we come to the southern part as well, droughts are a major concern, water shortage. And if we come to the south, the very south, we have issues of flooding. In fact, as we speak, just about 2 weeks ago in Ghana, several coastal communities are known to have been, impacted by, the what they call tides, and that's taken away many households, and it's an annual ritual. So these are things that are becoming more and more. And I believe if you go to Kenya, if you go to Ethiopia, if you go to many other parts of Africa, these are common to Nigeria, Lagos. They are experiencing this phenomenon because of the changes. So, for instance, those of us in Accra, or even if you go outside of Accra, last year, the conditions are so extreme when it comes to heat or temperatures. People complain every time. Even this week or every week, people complain. This article is something that I wrote last year to explain why, we're experiencing all the heat that we're experiencing at the moment. And of course, I connected it to the trend in climate change over the country in recent years. I believe you can pick the same article and look at it from Kenya or from Nigeria, Lagos, from many parts of Africa, or even from Cape Town, and talk about it, because we are all seeing more heat, water conditions during the day, and that is also a problem, and even during the night as well. So these challenges are quite, clear to all of us. And so we've moved from the idea that this is climate to what we call climate crisis. So when I started, I thought about the fact that we are in crisis. And so this is not like it's a distant threat, oh, climate change is coming. So it's not like that. Climate change is here. But we are in crisis now because it's affected so many kinds of livelihood systems or the way we live, the way we do our things. And so we need to take urgent action. And I think this is where the youth become the people to do that. So again, at the beginning, I made it clear that the youth are not the future, the youth are the present. And so the youth, according to several studies or data that exist, are answering the call to climate change, which is exciting because I think, the fact that we are here today at this time trying to talk about this is a very, good manifestation of the fact that we are ready to lead, the action towards addressing the climate change impact. So we really, really are ready to do that. So then the question that we ask is that who really are the youth? So as we are all here today, can we say we are all youth? Can we say that all of us here are youth? And does it
We are
really
all youth.
matter? Okay, thank you. Nice. Does it really matter? Just for, again, for technical reasons and also for demographic reasons, the UN, for its own purpose, defines youth as persons within the age of 15 and 24. That's fine. It's not a problem at all. And then there are a lot of studies that shows that, more than 70% of young people in the world are worried about climate change. It means that they're worried about what will happen to them tomorrow, the day after, and all that stuff. If you come to Ghana, in the national, youth policy, which, was drafted just 2 years ago, put together or launched 2022 to 2032, Ghana classifies youth as people between the ages of 15 and 35 years. It would be nice to hear about, these age categories from our brothers from other parts of Africa and sisters. And so clearly, if you put yourself there as well, somehow you can also decide to come up with your own policy. So between 18 and 40, we are all youth. But my brother even said it, like, we are all youth, regardless of your age. So despite these, technical or demographic data, I don't think age really matters. But again, it's important to use this because it helps us to do certain sort of planning or put certain things in place for various, economic, social, and cultural reasons. If you look at this particular, population pyramid, this is Ghana's most recent population census data, okay? And it gives you a good sense of the people who are dominating the population. They are the youth, in quotes. Based on that definition, they are the youth, 15 to 35 years. See clearly it's here. But the question is, are the youth also the people making the decisions that affect the country? If you pick up the people who are now ministers, for instance, a new government, let's look at the ministers who were put there, and let's see people who fall between this age, and then we can, reflect on it deeply. So clearly, youth are key. I also thought we should be very sincere with ourselves. I brought this reality check because, we look at Galamsey, which has become a big thing in Ghana. Again, I'm not too sure about other countries in Africa, but where illegal small-scale mining, which has significant impact on the environment. I think we all know it. Some of the data that I found out shows that more than 70% of those doing this sort of mining, which are destroying all the forests in the country. In fact, I've traveled across the country in the last 1 year. I've traveled to places where you see them actively involved. They are young people. They're not people who are 50s or 40s. They're young people doing, the thing. And we all know that galamsey degrades forests, it contaminates water bodies, and all these are accelerating climate change vulnerability, which is also a key concern. So as much as we think of the youth as some of the leaders of people, they're also the people who are clearly damaging the environment. So this reality check should let us reflect deeply on how we bridge the nuts. Again, we have to appreciate that, yes, youth matter because youth are the most affected by climate change. I just thought about that. If you look at some of the data that also exists again, you see that youth are likely to migrate to other parts of the world because they are the ones who need, jobs to be able to take care of themselves, their families, and other things like that. They don't have it. If you look at the migration, numbers now, people who are going to, North Africa, further to Europe, they're mostly youth, people between 18 or 15 to 30 years. And so that's it. That's a fact. So, but youth are also people who we are known to bring fresh perspective. They bring a lot of energy and innovation. We can stay up all night and do a lot of stuff, which I think is very important. So youth can also lead, movement and also drive. So I think it's quite clear that youth matter in climate action because they are the ones who have the energy, who can do all the things. All the things we've been doing are things that's just. So the question that I'm trying to ask, the question that I want to ask you guys here today or right now is that do you really think that can young people lead in climate action globally? Can we answer that question? Can we really lead in climate action globally? Is this something that we can do? Yes or no? Can we do that? And where is the evidence? So fundamentally, let's think about that deeply and see how. But I personally feel yes, we can. I'll say that yes, we can. Why can we do so? Because history shows it. All over the world, historically, the people who have done the most innovation are youth. And let's use more recent ones because we want to see how things are happening. And I brought these examples here just to give you a sense of what youth have in terms of power, and that we have no excuse. Okay. The most innovative things that we found in our lives in the last 20, 30 years were from young people. So as we all know, who discovered Facebook? Not discovered, who started Facebook? Mark Zuckerberg did this at the age of 19 years, in his room. He sat in his room with his friends or whoever, and they did this 19 years of age. I know in Africa, 19, you'll be going to school a lot, you'll be doing all kinds of things. But anyway, 19 years of age. Larry Page and Sergey Brin, these guys started Google. Again, they were students, they're young people. Larry Page, they did this at the age of 25 years. I think Sergey Brin also the same age. Then Elon Musk, despite his controversies in recent times, he's been very innovative. At the age of 24, he founded, X.com, which was paper. And then more recently, we know what he's doing. Even if you look at his current age, you can still consider him to be youth. And these are fundamentally the tools that have transformed our society. That is going to continue to transform our society. And that's also going to transform climate action going into the future. So then what the question is, why are we not the ones that can lead the climate action? I mean, the good news is, the great idea is that there's already a lot of young people who are all over the world taking action on climate change or who are driving the action as activists who are keenly doing that. And I think we know some of the examples that we can point out. Greta Thunberg has become famous because she decided to just stand up one day and say, no, school strike, let's not do it. Let's ensure that our parliamentarians, our leaders, take certain attitudes. And that also brought some benefit. This young lady here from Uganda, Vanessa, she's also done her own way in Africa, in the country, leading young people to be active players. There's a lot of people doing that. This other lady that I found also, indigenous community in South America, she's not doing something. So the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, youth are active. Youth are people who can do that. And again, even in Kenya, in fact, I had a chance to meet this lady at some point. Elizabeth has also been very active and she's founded Green, Generation Initiative. And I think she's probably learning a lot from Wangari Maathai, who was a key leader or who was a very, big force when it comes to, restoration of the environment in Kenya and who became a Nobel Prize winner, at some point. So I think there's that energy that we can do that. And again, to move on, I feel like even in Ghana also, youth are the front line of climate action. And I'm always happy because I see a lot of them. I work with a lot of them, and I get excited when I see them in their own effort to do that. I'll just touch on a few organizations that actively I know I work with, and I think these are some of them that are actively, I mean, doing different things to ensure that climate change is something that we deal with. one very popular or more renowned one is the Green Africa Youth Organization, GAYO. GAYO was started by young people who had just finished their first degree at the university, Joshua and all. Then they become a big force. They recently won I think over £1 million award to continue their work. Women for Sustainability, young women, Anita, Ruby, and others get together and say, we want to use women as a force to address climate change, also sustainability. They're doing that. And then we have SYND, young people who are also using their own effort. If you go to the offices, people who are very young, coming from the university sometimes, and even not yet in the university, they do that. And then we also have White Cliff, also Young Climate Innovators Association programs. And then even in our own university last year, led by Barrister and other students. So why can't we have a student association that begins to do simple and basic things to do that? I want to talk about this guy because he's somebody I've known for a while. But if you look at his story, McAfee, who is the founder of Macintosh Africa, through his schooling with difficulty, but somehow he has that drive, and he establishes, a recycling setup, or he uses, waste materials, plastics and other materials to reproduce very important, things that we use in our homes, recyclable things, containers, like painting or stuff, footwear. And he's thriving. He's using this as a way to also, contribute to climate action. I think that's something that should give us, some sort of an inspiration that we can do it. If McAfee can do it, if you listen to his story, read his book that he's written, you can understand where it's coming from. And so every one of us can do something. And I also know that in Ghana, there's a lot of young people involvement in climate policy, and which is very exciting because, again, all the organizations that I mentioned earlier, they're always part of government policy dialogues or meetings aimed at drafting policies to address issues of pollution, issues of recycling, no plastics, water. And this is exciting. I think this is very exciting. And sometimes the political organizations also invite them to be part of their manifesto launch, which I think is exciting and something that we can continue to be involved. And I'm hoping that we stay on course and not deviate from what we've been doing. So in a more smaller sense, if you look at what the Ugccsa, the organization that is hosting this webinar is doing, they've been doing small activities within campus around Accra, where they engage senior high school students. They do cleaning up of waste that is formed around. They do tree planting. They talk to university students to let them know about climate change. So the no action is too small, insignificant. So I think these are some of the things that are critical for driving youth action on climate change. But in all this, one thing that I think is important is that everybody here has a mobile phone. Some of us are joining this call from our mobile phones. The mobile phone arguably has become the most powerful tool that we've ever had in our life. Okay, it's more powerful than a car if you want to understand it. You can argue with me, but yet the use of it sometimes can be maybe insignificant. So I think that there's a concept of what we call collectivism. Collectivism basically means that with your mobile phone, you can use it to, drive or click on things or share things that can promote climate action or that can lead to changing mindset or actions of climate change. So why won't you use your social media or online petitions or data storytelling to drive climate awareness? That's something that I think we can do. So when you go online every day, whether on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, or so, let your attention be drawn to issues around climate, not just very private issues or so, and these are the ways that will drive more action or let people more be aware of the issues around climate. So collectivism is so important because that is one easy way that we can all help to drive the climate agenda. So don't let us forget about that. So again, the youth are key, and because of collectivism, because of we are all tech savvy. Most of us are very tech savvy. We spend a lot of time on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram, on WhatsApp. In fact, some of the data it's quite scary, but sometimes it can be useful. We spend more than, let's say, 8 hours of our time watching our phones, which I think sometimes can be hurtful, but it can also be powerful depending on how you use it. But we need to do it in moderation. So we can mobilize, a lot of ideas through these platforms, and then we can also use that platform to pressure decision makers. Very important approach. So we should be thinking of using also creative means to do that. And how can we be doing that? I already mentioned that we can be doing that through petitioning for policy change. Sometimes people share, some document for petitioning. You have to be able to sign and read it and sign, understand it and sign and do that. We can do some crowdsourcing, climate change solution using apps and digital solutions. And I think this is something that we can't overlook at all. And of course, I'll just quickly talk about this because we know that there are challenges. I know that youth have challenges, and that's something that we can't overlook. Because first of all, we lack access to resources, funding, and also opportunities, which can be problematic. We also have huge, knowledge gaps in some parts of the national development agenda, which doesn't help us. Sometimes communities don't support the actions we do. Sometimes you've put up a lot of effort into starting some ideas, but they don't just support from the community, and then it becomes a problem. Political influence. Some people get into, politics and they forget about why they first of all started youth activism, which I think can be a bit concerned. So let's also be mindful of this. And then in terms of opportunities, I already mentioned this, but I just wanted to highlight again that yes, social media data platforms can't be overlooked. Let's think of them as the most important platforms we have every day. Once you take your phone, let it be a platform for you to, change something or drive an action for climate change or climate action. And also, let's always be willing to collaborate. There's a lot of smaller organizations and I like what is happening in Ghana. The younger youth organizations that I mentioned earlier, they're always sharing ideas, collaborating to, take action on some of this, which I think is very important. There's opportunities also within the UNFCCC system, okay, for young people who want to attend different kinds of clubs or platforms. And so you can always be looking for some of these ones online, and then it can help you to also be part of the global conversation. I also say that the use of AI has come to be a part of us. So we should use AI responsibly to ensure that in many ways we are benefiting from it and not using it against us. Because AI is such a powerful tool that if we use it well, it will help us to, address some of the challenges that we feel when it comes to climate change. And in a way, I think policymakers can help the youth by also ensure that they formalize youth roles in climate policy decision-making bodies. Let youth be the leaders. Let them lead. Give them the chance to lead, and don't just think that give them a small position or a side position. In the same way, I think that they can ensure transparency and accountability to youth demands. Let's sure we keep following up on our demands. And my concluding slide is just that they say that the future depends on what we do in the present. But like I said, the future is now for the youth. So the youth of today must be equipped with the knowledge and skills to make the world a better place. And so you being a part of this meeting right now, it's one form of knowledge and skill acquisition. So use it effectively and ensure that as you wake up tomorrow morning, you think of ideas that you can implement and how you can work with other people, regardless of your location, to drive the agenda for climate resilience. So thank you for the opportunity. If there's a chance to ask questions, I'll take some few questions before we move to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this juncture, we'll take questions. So if you have any questions for Doc, kindly let him know.
Hello. Hello, Doc.
Hi, go ahead.
This is Bernard Ombati.
Yes, sir.
This is Bernard Ombati, the Director of Compliance and the Originator Climate Change Action in Kenya, and also a master student at the University of Kenyatta doing environmental degradation and design. I want a few clarification on the same. Thank you for the University of Ghana for coming up with this good initiative to making the youths be reminded and able to get. I want to ask you this question: Is the University of Ghana? The University of Ghana has started this innovation. Does the University of Ghana incorporate other youths from other areas from East Africa? Personally, I come from Kenya. Do they incorporate also the youth from other regions for the initiative, the good initiative they started? And the secondly, today we have had the first chance of initiating this Ghana climate change action initiative from the University of Ghana under the umbrella of the president and the leadership. Is it the first and the last, or we will have a continued engagement during this climate action with the participants of today? Am I allowed to or is there an organization in the University of Ghana which can incorporate us for the initiative throughout, so that we can continue with the message in the rest of Africa, for example, East Africa, Kenya, where I come from? Thank you for.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Bernard. I think that's a very good question. I mean, one of the things I thought about was collaboration and the need to always look for ways that we can share knowledge, share experiences, and do that. And I think I'll say that, yes, we are very open to engaging our brothers, sisters, our colleagues from all over Africa, all over the world. And I think from what you just said, what it brings to my mind immediately is that from now, we need to move beyond just, what we call the Ghana, and be able to actively work with you, your organization, as well as other organizations. And also the many organizations that are listed here, they're very much open to engaging with others from all over Africa. So what we're going to do is that before this meeting ends, the organizers will share some emails or some contact so that we can continue to engage, so that we can even ask you to host the next one. I'll be happy to talk again to other people within Kenya. Then we can keep the conversation going. So yes, the university is open, the organizations are open for that.
Thank you very much for that wonderful talk. I'm also happy to have that positive response. I hope that you also enjoy other experts. I'm also an expert in the area. I look for one day to be joining your organization for more engagement. Thank you very much once again for this wonderful response. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard Ombati, for your question. I think we have another Bernard. Bernard, can you kindly unmute and
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Doc, when you were speaking, you made mention of how the global temperature have been increasing rapidly since the Industrial Revolution. And if we refer to ourselves, most of these industries are the ones producing the machines and everyday accessories that we've been using, and makes work easier for everyone. So I want to ask, what are some of the alternatives that these industries can use in order to reduce the carbon emissions, or the amount of carbon that they emit from their industry?
Okay. Well, thank you. Again, that's a very, useful question. But I think that's where we talk about renewable energy, okay? Renewable energy sources, because obviously the idea of using a fossil fuel, a lot of these are industries, there's still a good number of industries that rely on fossil fuel, which sends out a lot of emissions. And I think that's something that we don't want to keep doing. So we can move simply away from these, coal plants, all those plants, by doing more what we call the renewable energy sources in our production system. So that would mean that we need solar, we need to use solar. And then because solar systems can be very helpful and they can reduce the amount of fossil fuel, so for instance, the introduction of geothermal energy, for instance, which I think is so important, and it has less, impact when it comes to the environment. They can be explored and in many parts of the world as well. Even wind, because the process for producing wind is not the one that also, leads to all that kind of other energy systems that can, and even hydrogen energy. Some of them are still in their early stages, but I think these are also useful. Even if you want to look at the fact that people continue to use fossil fuel energy systems in production of different or manufacturing systems, there are some emerging technologies that, again, are in a very early stage, like carbon capture and storage, systems whereby you can capture, carbon dioxide emissions from power plants and industries and store them underground. And these technologies can help to reduce, emissions. It also depends on which part of the world you are. But like I said, there's a lot of new technologies that are emerging. I believe that with time, we can move away from these and be more sustainable. But if you think about, for instance, transportation, I believe that in the last few years, even the last 2-3 years, there's been so much about electric cars, okay? And, these are also forms which I think can be very helpful when it comes to moving away from the fossil fuel economy. But electric cars are becoming a big thing now. I think in the next 10 years, there'll be huge inflow even in Africa, and that will also somehow help to address some of these challenges.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
No
thank
problem.
you very much, Doc. Any other questions?
Yes, please. Hello.
Okay, Dorothy, go ahead.
Yeah, Doc, please. In your submission, you were like, the youth can drive climate action. And I believe
Yeah.
that's very true. The youth, we have
Yes,
the
go ahead.
potential to drive climate action. And I believe that's very true. But then sometimes even some policymakers, their actions and the decisions they make. For instance, we were like Mark Zuckerberg and the founder of Facebook, and those, they were once youth, and then they are innovators, means they have to motivate us to also be able to do things that will drive climate action. But then when you look at people like Donald Trump and those people, they are not really youth, but then they are policy makers. And then some of their policies, when we are trying to do things to drive climate action, it's it's bringing the whole action backwards. For instance, Donald's recent statement on drilling more fossil fuel, it will, in the long run, affect climate change. It will increase climate change. So, like, how do we go about that? Because as a young lady, I would think, oh, okay, even I'm trying to drive climate action. I'm trying to reduce climate change by reducing the amount of waste in the environment. But then when you look at these bigger people or these larger bodies, you see that they don't even care. So it will be like, oh, okay, since they are rather exploiting the environment. Like,
Yes, I think I understand your question, and I know, I mean, you're asking it very passionately because of, the current concerns. Because I know that, in this world, yes, there are policymakers who resist climate action, and that's a fact. And sometimes you can't do much about it. But the key thing we can do is to create more awareness and education. Unfortunately, it's not, the options when it comes to engaging such people are sometimes limited. But we as youth have the power to, let's say, become agent. For example, when it comes to strike, going on strike, we have different platforms that we can use to communicate our knowledge of the scientific facts, because we are talking based on facts, not based on just hearsays. So people like Donald Trump may have his own agenda, or the Republican Party may have their own agenda, but we have to keep fighting. There are also some very good policymakers who also are strong, or people, for instance, beyond Donald Trump, there are many international, what are called organizations, or there are many wealthy people globally. Even some of these people who are very wealthy, who are in quotes called billionaires in the world, they are also, people who are for climate action. And so it's like a fight between good and bad. We should fight and keep fighting and never give up, and build more public support, okay? Once we build more public support by organizing public campaigns, rallies, small ones in our spaces, a lot more people will come to the table or come and understand why we need to do this. And then eventually, as we always see in the movies, the good wins, or the forces of good will win. So I think that that's where we are looking at right now. But when we have the chance, okay, we should hold policymakers accountable. We should always monitor their voting records, for instance, and know if they are voting for somebody who really is for climate action or not, especially in our countries where maybe it's not even a big thing. But we should be paying attention. When you're going to vote for somebody next time, find out from them, are they really people who are going to help address your needs or not? So let's be very, very, focused. And I think we can keep doing that by educating more people beyond ourselves so that they can also help drive action. Okay?
thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll take the last two questions from we'll take one from Mary. So Mary, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Thank you very much. So please, my question is, how can we support young people with innovative ideas when it comes to addressing climate change issues, given that we are among the most affected by climate change? Because we can tell that many of the youth, many of the young individuals, they have a brilliant solution when it comes to addressing climate change, but they often lack the necessary support, the necessary resources, mentorship, and platform that they need to drive meaningful change. So what steps can we put in place in supporting this youth with its innovative, authentic ideas in addressing climate change? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I think, Mary, you answered your question. You answered it by telling us what they need. And I know sometimes it's easier said than done. And so, because if you ask me to say what steps can be taken, of course, one was important, and that's why policy is part of it. Policy is important, Mary. I hope I'm getting your name right, because policy is going to make it mandatory for an organization or a body or a ministry to provide, let's say, funding, okay? Every year, let's just say the government of Ghana or Kenya or Ethiopia or Tanzania will give $100 million to young startups, the ones that I just mentioned, so that they can upscale their innovations on climate change. That is a policy, and that must be implemented. We must ask for that money, and then we must see the results of that. So I think funding, and grants can be important, but it has to be supported by policy. That is something that, and if you look at some of the things that already exist, there are some innovation hubs. For instance, at the University of Ghana Business, we have an innovation hub. In Ghana, we have the climate change, innovation hubs, which are supposed to be helping small startups to improve on their business or to upskill whatever they have. Those are also existing. And so I think that's what needs to be used, and we need to continue the education on climate change and also provide a platform for marketing product or for buying products that are produced by youth that are climate friendly. So, and I think we ourselves are also part of the solution. Do we like made in Ghana or made in Africa products? We buy products that are, because it's only when you buy that it sort of gives them that opportunity to grow. So let's look at these simple things. But I think policy is very important. So we need to keep driving our agenda for good policy to support.
Thank you very much, Doc. I think I'll take the last question. And the person said, unfortunately, he cannot talk, but he asked the question in the DM. So the question is, how can we as young Africans unite our strength to become a powerful force that compels our leaders to take climate initiatives seriously?
Collaborate. We need to share more. Unity is strength, as you just said. And again, how can we unite our strength to become a powerful force? More collaboration. Our brothers from Kenya already asked, how can we share our ideas with you? Now, we don't need to travel to Kenya to share. We can do webinars. We can learn from Kenya. So next time we are doing this presentation, let's bring our colleague from Kenya to talk to us about a case study of Kenya. Then how did they do it? How did you guys do it in Kenya or in Nairobi or in Ethiopia or in Cape Town, wherever? Then, this is how we did it. Then let's try it in Ghana. Then we unite our strength. We share from Burkina Faso. They say, Pfizer, how did you do it in Burkina Faso to become? How did Burkina Faso, for instance, become a better producer of onion than Ghana, which has a better land or more more water than Burkina Faso? How did they do it? How can we share? So I think it just requires collaboration, collective action, and then more engagement, and also, of course, more like back to the word of policy action that allows movement of people within the continent. So that's my response.
Thank you very much, Doc.
You're welcome.
We'll take our presentation from a second speaker.
Please, my hand has been up for some time.
Apologies, they didn't hear you, or they didn't see you, but maybe you can allow him to say very quick one. Please go ahead before we go, because we need to get the other presenters.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc. Doc, my question is, those who do not support climate change much, like Donald Trump, don't you think the climate change advocates, we are popularizing or marketing climate change beyond normal? For example, look at Ghana's energy transition documents. We said by 2070, we need to transition. And look at the amount in the document, $550 billion. Compare $550 billion to $3 billion when we were going for loan from IMF for $3 billion. Look at the way we suffer. Even still, we are paying the money in trenches. And compare $3 billion to $550 billion. Where is Ghana going to get this financing to do? So some of the fossil fuel or energy company feel that it's not possible. Another thing that I want to ask you is, these developed countries, they have used fossil fuel to develop their countries, but they are telling us that we should leave ours. Then they are developing technologies. India, for instance, India is not doing energy transition. but we are developing technology from this lithium that Ghana has, where they will come and sell lithium batteries to us. So at the end of the day, Ghana or Africa will keep poor because we are not able to do the things we need to do to get ourselves from the poverty level. So I don't know if you have any thought on it. Thank you very much.
Okay. So my brother, I wouldn't, you see, the idea of maybe what's the word you use, over marketing climate change, or we're just putting too much emphasis on climate change, is not something that I buy in. But of course, I will agree with one thing. Sometimes there's always what we call misinformation or disinformation. And sometimes there's some deliberate, which is simply saying that there's deliberate campaigns to spread some false information about climate change. And that can also lead to doubt in people's minds, okay? And also you have to understand that people have their own interest. Even though from a scientific perspective, I know climate change is happening, there are many other people who also pick up climate change and use it for their own business gains, benefit, because they are selfish. You can turn that around and use the same thing for, let's say, somebody like Donald Trump or the Republican Party, whereby they benefit from fossil fuel economy. So for them, they think that let's not change into this new economy where we think we are moving on to transitioning. So because once we transition, it will affect us directly right now. That's also another person's opinion on how they think this will benefit them. But to say that, for instance, if you look at the amount of money we need, we projected needs for, and it says 500 billion. So it's more than, we need, or just too ambitious. I think when you look at projections, okay, look at climate change projections, there are different scenarios, and the scenarios point to what will happen under different circumstances. And so if you know about RCP 8.5, 6. Under different ones, we need to know how much we will have to be able to do that. So under current business as usual scenarios, we need maybe a lot of money because we'd have done a lot of distraction. But 500 billion is not so much money, in my opinion, my brother. You look at it in that, so, oh, that's too much money compared to what we have now. But money in itself it comes in a way that if you are using it to design a technology that can help you be better off, then you don't need to worry about it. And there's always that you can find it. So I don't think it's too much money to transition in that way because we waste more than that if you look at the way our economies are run. On the question of global north countries, what you call developed countries, which I don't want to use that term personally. I understand that. I think this comes up every time. Oh, they've used fossil fuel, and so now they're saying we should transition to this economy. I think it's not entirely like a, a law. Nobody can force Ghana to immediately change its energy type. It has to be a gradual process. When we say just transition, the just transition context says that there still has to be benefit or gradual transition that everybody else can still, have some benefit. So those countries are not saying all of a sudden African countries change your energy system, otherwise we will not give it a no. It's a slow, gradual process that is aimed at giving us the greater good and not just for a few people. So I think that we should be having discussion more passionately, but at the same time, more nuanced. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. So we'll have our next speaker, who is in the person of Mrs. Anita Ofori. She's going to delve more into the careers in climate change and the green economy. Welcome, madam.
Thank you very much, and a good evening to everyone. I say a very big thank you to the organizers for inviting me to speak to the audience. It's a privilege. And to Dr. Bafo, thank you for laying such a solid foundation for today's start. It's been very educative, and I've also learned a lot from your presentation. And just looking at your closing remarks actually even sets the tone for my presentation as well, that the future depends on what we do in the present. The youth of today must be equipped with the knowledge and skills to make the world a better place. So thank you very much. And my name is Anita Ofori, the co-founder for Women for Sustainability Africa. And today, let me share my screen. Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. Just a minute, please. Please, is my screen visible?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Thank you once again. So we'll be looking at careers in climate change and the green economy, exploring opportunities for a sustainable future. And to start, I mean, we all know about climate change and we all know how it's affecting our environment. We all know how it's affecting our economies, policies, and I mean, the community as large. And we all know it's a global challenge that needs innovative solutions and also need us as youth to be able to take climate actions. Um, and we also know that climate change is a global issue which is impacting social inequalities, our health, and ecosystem as well. And this is actually creating a growing demand for people with skills that would help us, manage the current situation we have. So therefore, we need to be able to maximize or utilize all these opportunities. Now, I take us to key growth areas and opportunities in climate change and how we can be able to contribute our quota in this regard. When you look at the green economy, we can all know that it's actually experiencing some kind of significant growth and creating diverse career opportunities across multiple sectors. Now, with every sector you find, it's like there needs to be some aspect of how can this be sustainable. We need to be able to sustain everything we do, even including our businesses, even in our homes. We need to be able to bring that home. And talking about renewable energy as another sector, the sector created 13.7 million dollars job globally in 2022, with solar and wind power leading the job creation. And this from the Ghana Renewable Energy Master Plan 2019. And we all know that a lot of companies
Hello.
currently are transitioning into
Hello.
solar panels.
Anita. Hello, Anita, can you hear me? Are you moving the
Yes,
slide?
I
Your
can.
slide is not moving. Have you moved the slide?
Yes, I have.
Okay, your slide is not moving on my screen. I don't know if it's same for everyone.
Yes, it's not moving.
Yeah, it's not moving.
It's not moving. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a minute, please. Has anything changed? Has it changed or is it still the same?
So we can now see your face. So please share the screen.
Okay, let me share again then.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, please. You can see it
Yes,
now.
please.
And please, has it flipped? Have I changed it?
Yes, please.
Okay. And can you see the other one?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is the current slide, and I was talking about some of the key growth areas and opportunities that we can be looking at, and speaking about the renewable energy and the kind of opportunity that we are seeing in that area, because now a lot of companies are transitioning, and adapting solar, as their alternative power or main source of power. Even homes, people are adding solar power to make their homes green. So there's so much opportunity in that area. And also we look at the green building and construction, and it's expected to reach about 774 billion by 2030. And there's so much going on in that space as well, because as we all know, we're all trying to transition, we're all trying to make the world a better place. So even in terms of the kind of buildings that we are building now, you realize that it needs to be a green building. And once it's a green building, you're giving the EDGE certification as well. So it's an opportunity for us as youth to be able to build skills in that, because there's a lot of things that enter into having a green building as well, because you go through several audits. Do we have the skills, okay, for that? And that's also an area of opportunity. And we can look at the sustainable agricultural space as well, which is projected to grow to about 1.6 trillion by 2030, with particular relevance for Ghana and other African nation. And we all know that agriculture here is a very key area of focus, because food insecurity is a challenge. And I always say that wherever there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. Okay, so, and opportunity means you're creating solutions. And once you're providing solutions, you're earning income, you make the money. So we just don't have to see challenges as a problem and just speak about it. How can we be innovative to be able to create innovative solutions to address some of these issues that we're facing? We also look at the conservation and ecosystem management, which is very critical for Ghana's biodiversity, and I know it's across most of the African countries. And also climate finance, which is, is a big deal now. We look at global climate finance inflows, which should reach about $665 billion by 2023, and creating demand for specialists. So you realize that there's a lot of, even if you're coming up with innovative ideas, green ideas, you need some kind of funding to support the initiative that you are doing. So do we have these investors, who are willing to support us in terms of funds to be able to drive some of these initiatives, which will later become some kind of social enterprise? It becomes a business, and it's growing. We have that support, because if you look into the traditional banking area system where finances are giving, they'll tell you we don't give monies to startups. But then if there are some funds that can be used for climate projects, you want to install solar panel in your homes, you want to do something that promotes climate change and sustainability, there should be some kind of funds that should give you some level of incentive in terms of your interest rate that you're paying. And I know some other organizations have started doing that in the right direction. Look at the MasterCard Foundation, where you can actually have access to some funds to support your business at a rate of, let's say, 10% than the normal interest rate, where currently we are looking at maybe something above 30%, because already GRR is a little over 29%. They're looking at some key career areas in climate change. I'll pick the climate change and environmental, policies, where you work with governmental organizations, you work with lots of NGOs. Even you yourself, you can actually start an NGO. You can collaborate to, start an initiative where it's very important to have these specialized skills. And if you want to focus on policy development, advocacy, and environmental law, you ask yourself.
Nita, sorry to interrupt. Your slide to the key career areas has not moved. So if you could move it.
Okay, then I think I don't know, maybe the internet is lagging. Something is.
Yeah.
Is it okay? Okay, let me get
It's okay now. It's okay.
It's okay now. Okay, then I'll not put it in presentation mode. Let's so we're looking at focusing on policy development and advocacy and environmental law. These are skills you need to have. Okay, you want to develop policies, that is going to help, even in terms of, let's say, gender. Do you have that skills, okay, to be able to come up with some policies that will, because we claim that climate change doesn't affect us equally. So do we have the right skills to be able to develop such policies? Can we write, do we even have the skills to be able to advocate? All these are skills that needs to be built, and it can actually build a career in those areas as well. We're looking at how we can address our carbon emissions, sustainability, policies and climate justice, meaning you need to be able to have that the right information to be able to communicate that as well. And when we look at the environmental, social, and governance career, that's the ESG. And this ESG, you find it in many corporate organization because one, in terms of us, the social corporate responsibility of a company, you are interested in your environment. How can you make your environment a better place? How can you improve the life of the people in that community, the society? So what are you doing in your society? We're looking at the governance, the systems that is in place. What structures do you have in place to ensure that everyone is complying by rules and regulations and meeting the standards of the organization to be able to build a good reputation for your organizational brand. Okay, so you realize that a lot of organizations are actually looking for experts, people who have this kind of skill. And it's good for us to know what climate change is all about and sustainability, but then we shouldn't leave the governance part out of it. So you should be intentional about learning something more about governance, compliance, in addition to this skill, because that is what is going to help you and make you more give you an added advantage as well. So you look at your corporate social responsibility and ethical investing. You also look at ESG analysts, because in ESG analysts, you need to be able to provide data that is speaking to the kind of impact and project that you're running in your community. So if you don't have the understanding of what your ESG is about or what you're driving, then you will not be able to produce a meaningful data to be able to speak to it. Okay, so being an ESG analyst is also very key, meaning you also have to have some kind of data analyst skills in addition to that. And also, businesses are integrating sustainability into their core strategy. So, for an example, you pick the banking industry for an example, and you'd even realize that even under environment, you need somebody to handle issues around environment. You need somebody to focus on the social. You even need somebody to focus on the governance. So there's so much opportunity in there, and currently it is an area that is still growing. And to a large extent, I think it's a very key area for us to be able to develop, for us to be able to take some of the opportunities in those areas as well. When we look at sustainable agriculture and food system, I think I've already spoken a little about that. You see how climate change is affecting us globally, and even times where it's supposed to rain, it's not raining, so you're unable to harvest enough. You don't harvest enough, and coming to Ghana, for instance, some of our road networks are not so good. So by the time this food already gets into Ghana, let's say half of it is already gone bad. It gets to Ghana, and there's so much demand for the supply that you have that it increases the prices of food. Then you ask yourself that how many people can have access to quality food? How many people can afford this food, making food so expensive? So these are areas that needs innovative solutions. I know some people have already started coming up innovative ideas where they are trying some of these food right from the farming ground. They are trying to bring up technologies to dry these foods, and I think some have also been successful by exporting some of these dry foods that they've been able to put together. That is also generating some kind of income for them as well. And also you want to take advantage of research in these areas as well, because going into research is also key, because we need this information to be able to make meaningful and quality information. So policy making and sustainable farming techniques is very important. Then I'll move on to the environmental consulting and renewable energy. And you can actually become a consultant in those areas if you have the right skill. You can consult for organizations. Okay, you can just go there, have 2 hour sessions with them, you draft, you share your proposal with them, and they have to run with it. And those alone can actually, give you so much exposure that at a point you'll be in so much demand. You just need to be able to position yourself, have the right network, or make the right network to be able to have some of the connections to be able to even excel. And I even said, even if you're a student, it's still a good way for you to be able to even start your career right from school, you know. And also, we look at careers in solar, wind, carbon footprint analysis, and green tech innovation, which I mean, it still is in the system, but still at a very tender stage. And in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, it's going to be a very big deal. And businesses require these consultants to meet their sustainable goals and regulation, because some organizations, I'll tell you for a fact, that they do not even have the time to sit down to be able to even put their ESG reports together. So if you have that skill and you can actually take advantage about it, it's important. So I only just brought in some few highlights here of the platforms that you can actually have access to some of the sustainable jobs. And I mean, it's all over the internet. Now we live in an age where information is not hidden because of the internet and platforms like LinkedIn that you have. We have platforms like the Ghana Jobs, Impact Pool, even Climate Base. There are lots of global platforms that you can get find opportunities. And even sometimes what I also advise students is to be able to write to organizations to do internships in their sustainability department. Some organizations do not even have that opportunity. So once you're able to pitch yourself, show up strongly, and talk to them, or even let them know the need, why they need to even have a sustainability desk or unit or department, I mean, it's a great opportunity for you. And why does this matter? Because climate career allows you to be part of the solution, and this is a global solution. As Dr. Buafo was saying, what's Kenya doing in terms of climate change and sustainability? What are their opportunities? How are they addressing these issues? Okay, so once you're able to identify, you realize that you are going global because people want to hear your story. People want to hear what you are doing all across the world. I met some people at the One Young World Summit, and it was just because of the works that they were doing. So they were invited to come and tell us what they were doing globally. And I mean, these are platforms that gives you that global visibility. So you see them almost everywhere in every country. They are being called, and if you don't even come up with on LinkedIn that at a point they were struggling to get that visibility, but because of what they are doing, because they are writing their story, because they are telling about their story, and people globally want to listen to them. So it really matters for you to be able to be part of a global solution and be an innovator. And opportunities exist in every sector, being it in science, being it in business, in law, engineering, just name it. Like everywhere, climate change cuts across. Okay, it cuts across every sector, and there are opportunities that needs to be addressed, like to be taken for us to be able to address such global challenge. And also, the transition to green economy is shaping the future work. Within the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of jobs will be coming. Jobs that you've never even thought of will emerge. So then, before those jobs come, how ready are you to be able to take advantage of these opportunities? The world is transitioning to a green economy. Now is the time for us to be able to prepare, learn more, do a lot of research as well to be able to build that capacity. So, how can we take actions? One, we need to specialize our education. Climate change is so broad, sustainability is so broad. You need to be specialized. You need to build that skill so that you can be identified. as that, and people can have that trust in you. You need to have the practical experience. Apply to organizations, even if they're not going to pay you, just apply. Now, a lot of the youth, a lot of the youth lately, now we all hear about the Gen Zs, and it's like we all want things to happen quickly. We don't have the patience. If you get into an organization that is not paying you for what you're doing, you want to like you feel frustrated. I met a young lady at a program I recently attended in celebrating the International Women's Day. And she was telling me she finds herself, doing driving social impact, and they are, trying to do climate justice, and they're all over the companies all over, but that's not her passion. She wants to stop. She's looking forward to doing something more gender and all of that. I was like, no, I don't see the difference between what you want to stop, because I feel this is a great opportunity. You have the opportunity, or you are privileged to have real practical real practicals on addressing some of the global issues that is happening. So even when you decide to leave this organization today, if you don't even decide to leave this organization today, you can even consult. You can be able to have a movement for people, younger people, to even learn from you, to be able to address some of these global issues. Just imagine if you have your LinkedIn profile, well updated, you're talking about your story. Do you think that global opportunities will not follow you? Don't rather be following, because you're actually addressing global issues. And these are some of the things that can actually get you to work for the United Nations and all of that. So later, I think 2 days, 3 days after, she reached out to me and she was like, oh, in fact, what I actually told her has given her different perspective, different thoughts of how she actually looks at what she's currently doing, and she's going to do it passionately. And I think this is what we should be doing. A lot of people who are doing traditional jobs that do not have anything sustainability are, trying to add value to what they are doing. So you even read their profiles, and there's something about sustainability that they are trying to incorporate. Why? Because they still want to be relevant in today's world. Another thing that is very important for us to be able to take action is networking. I cannot overemphasize that. Networking is very, very important. You'd be surprised to even know that people get funding for their project during networking. So attending conferences, attending webinars, I mean, like lots of events, educational events, okay, that is seeking to address global issues and actually open opportunities for you. So networking is very important. I always tell the people around, when you get into a space, yes, we know you are quiet, you don't want trouble and all of that, but you can observe and connect with the right people, because you never know where the next opportunity is going to come from. And also research engagement. Okay, try to research more and participate in climate research projects, share your knowledge on what is happening globally, particularly for those focused in local adaptation strategies as well. Like, just share, do your research and share knowledge. So to conclude to my submission, I'll say that the green economy is full of opportunities. Now is the time for us to prepare and take actions. And we need to work together for a more sustainable future. Thank you very much. And I'll be here to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Suku.
Thank you very much. Madam Juanita, you hearing me?
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello, yes, I can hear you. Is it Bernard?
This is Bernard Ombati from Kenya. I'm a compliance and enforcement expert in climate security initiative program. I want to just have 3 questions for you. One,
Yeah, I'm listening.
does your organization, being the co-founder, does your organization support men stroke youth, or it's only women? It's only women initiatives in climate governance and change. Two, how does it how far does your organization impacted the rest of the world, Africa, like Kenya here, or is it a personal movement or organization? Because from where I sit, I have never seen it working or promoting the climate change initiatives. So, and again, on the same, these opportunities to have been globalized on climate change, which are cut across all departments. At some level, youths are very much engaged in matters of climate change and other actions across. But those we start programs, but the initiators or the sponsors now becomes a problem. Sponsor in the sense we have started a lot of programs, but the organizations like your organization are day telling us we should. Are we moving? We are at the current. What have you done, or are you ready to initiate any program sponsorship in terms of youth? Because you are talking about opportunities across. Thank you. That's all for you, Madam Anit.
Thank you, Bernard. I think you were breaking intermittently, so it wasn't that clear for me. But I think the very first question I got was, does your organization support men? Was
Yes.
that the question, or does your
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we do,
Yes.
because in everything that we do, we try to bring the men into it, because we also need them to understand the challenges women go through. And once the men are able to understand, they're able to give the woman the necessary support. Okay, in address. And I always say that truth is that the men have taken the lead in most of the things we want to do. If you go into programs like STEM projects, you find lots of men. Even in climate change opportunities and spaces, you find a lot of men taking up opportunities, even than women. Why? Because we also need to understand, but we need to be able to give women the confidence. So we bring in these men to also share their perspective with the women. How are they able to do it? Because for a woman to even take one opportunity, she's going to calculate all the risks in the level of that job before she says yes to it. But a man will say yes without thinking about it. When a man gets the opportunity, that's when the man settles and thinks about how he's going to, thrive in that space. So we do not ignore the men, and we welcome ideas. We welcome support. I mean, anything from a man to support the movement. Think if I'm clear with on that, I think that's what I was able to get. If I didn't get it, kindly type the rest of the question in the chat box, and I would come back to it. Thank you. So if we can have the second person ask the question, I'm available to answer.
Manita, the second question, you have not answered the second and the third question. Hello.
Okay, hello. What's the second question, please?
How far has your organization so far supported or sponsored or impacted with the rest of the world, Africa, like Kenya here where I am? And again, the third question, opportunities in your organizations, as you have said, that across all departments or in areas or sectors. Are you ready to initiate programs, or is your organization ready to initiate programs on the same? Because most of us as the youth, we have started a lot of programs in climate change, but now the initiators, we are the initiators, but as youth, we come across some challenges on the way due to the bureaucratic challenges of countries and governments. So what are you doing on the same? Thank you, Madam Anita.
Okay, thank you very much. So Women for Sustainability is still growing and thriving. We've been able to form some partnership with other African countries like Nigeria, where we've collaborated to bring an education to the Nigerian and Ghanaian community. For Kenya, we haven't. But we are looking for opportunities. So we can always connect to see what we can do together in terms of that. But what we do is to build the capacity of those young women. What we also do is to gather stories of women who are thriving or doing well in terms of sustainability for us to be able to learn how they're able to do it. Because in Africa here, one of the major challenge is the cultural barriers that women encounter. So that we want to listen to their stories of how they've been able to break those barriers and thrive in whatever they are doing to be very successful. Another thing we do is to bring digital training skills, and these skills actually help them to, if they need to start their social enterprises, skills that actually would help them to be able to be economically empowered. So we even bring out financial literacy skills as well, and education to them as well. And another thing that we also do is our Let's Talk Sustainability series, where um, we try to educate our women, our community, because if you listen or if you conduct a survey among our community, you realize that a lot of women do not even know much about climate change. They don't even know what is really happening in that regard. So what we do is to bring the education to their level for them to be able to understand and appreciate some of these information or some of these global issues that is currently going on. We are open for partnership. We are open to do more. So, that's the little I'd want to say about that. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Juanita. On the same, kindly take my.
Yes, hello.
Thank you very much. We'll take our next
Okay.
question from Francis.
Okay.
Francis,
All right. Thank you very much. I have one contribution and one question. The contribution is that with the green businesses, for example, those young people who are in Ghana who want to do agroforestry, like do green business, if you want to plant trees, something like coconuts, cash crop trees, Ghana government will not charge you, it will not take tax from you for the next 10 years. So let's say I plant coconut today, 3 years time, and coconut is being fruiting and is harvested. I will enjoy it for the next 10 years. Tax will not be taken because I'm doing agroforestry or cash crop. So that is one of the advantages if you want to plant trees to mitigate climate change, but cash crop where you also make money, you will not pay taxes on it for the next 10 years. But Madam Anita, my question is, you've spoken about the opportunities and the careers in the green and the sustainability. But I want to ask, are there some institutions or courses that you can take, especially in Ghana, that can get you this skills and knowledge that you can position yourself? What I'm asking so is that I went to University of Ghana last year. They are doing climate change and sustainability course, but it's at the master's level. And unfortunately for me, I've not even entered university, so therefore I cannot enroll in that course. That is why I'm asking whether you know some institutions in Ghana or elsewhere that offer like 3 months, 6 months, or short courses that you can get these skills that you've spoken about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Francis. I think we can discuss further, but there are some NGOs that are promoting some of these, what you're just talking about, even University of Ghana as well. And I want to mention an organization like Gaio. I don't know if you know about them. There are a lot out there, even with corporate organizations. Like some banks are very interested in agribusiness. So anything that has to do with agribusiness, they are very interested, and they are building capacity of these individuals who have interest in those areas. So yes, there are so many opportunities in that aspect as well, because it's a very key area that is being looked at. Okay. It's a question. So in my presentation, you wouldn't have seen that, but we can get you tons of information in that regard. I will just drop my email in the chat box, and you can pick it and drop me an email after. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me add that. If I can add just a quick one, since he's asking about training, capacity building, and all that. Can I add something? Dr.
Yes,
Bafo here.
yes, go ahead.
Yes, please,
Go ahead.
Doc. Please do.
No. So Francis, yes, it's a very good question. We don't have undergraduate programs yet, but I believe in the next year we will have some short courses around the issue that you're talking about. We're still working around it. So hopefully when these short courses start, you can be able to take them, build their capacity.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Anita Ofuri. So,
Okay, so Lydia, please, there are two people who found that out. Let's take the last two persons and then move to the next speaker. It's almost 7:30. So Eric and
Eric, can you
Okay,
go
so
ahead?
thank you very much for the opportunity. Mine is not in a straight question form, but also to ask Madam whether the organization has been doing maybe face-to-face workshops or just online. Because when I was in KNST, we used to they used to organize air quality program workshop that is for 2 weeks. There they get students or participants from the industry, others from the academia, and the media as well, from Ghana, and then some West Africa countries. Even this year they organize it, but currently I'm doing my master's in Canada. So I would like to ask whether this workshop is just online or they do face-to-face workshop, and if not, if only online, maybe it's just a suggestion so that as time goes on, they can organize it online. Then participants will get hands-on training on this kind of how to analyze climate data sets, so that whenever they are talking to people or they are kind of like like educating people on it, showing them how the the trend is going over the years or has been so far. I mean, it can also help people understand it very well and then take quick initiatives. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So Alan, please add your questions so that this Anita can answer the two at the same time. Okay. Alan. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, please ask your question.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. This is Alam from Ethiopia. I'm a communication expert. I'm a lecturer of public relations and strategy communication at Ugccssa University, Ethiopia. And currently I'm a PhD candidate in crisis and state communication at University of South Africa. And next, I really appreciate for the organizer, facilitators, and initiators for this very brilliant idea, Center for Climate Change and Sustainability, especially in University of Ghana. Thank you for your initiatives and active engagement. My question, since I am from a communication background, how we can mitigate our gaps, particularly the African gaps. I don't want to say challenge or problem. We don't have a problem and a challenge, but we have the gap. We understand that. So we need to deconstruct such ideas, okay, in order to bring a real change, particularly in the area of climate. So how we can, or what kind of, or which types of role that Africans should apply to bring a change, particularly in the perception of the people of Africa. Africa needs human. We are here. So in order to bring a change, we need to deconstruct the conventional way of developmental approach or any approach. So in order to bring a change, in my understanding, there are something that should be deconstructed. So in the area of communication or public diplomacy or digital public diplomacy, what is your interest or intention? Because we need to address such issue in the area of diplomacy, in the area of strategic communication, in the area of digital literacy, in order to create the awareness or raise the awareness of our society as Africans. So what strategy that we have to use such wonderful platforms in order to deconstruct and also to reconstruct the ideas in the context of Africa? Unless and otherwise, we can't bring a change, because there is a big, stereotype from the overseas countries. So unless we are moving in the track that we have or in the way that we construct, it could be difficult in my understanding. So lastly, what types of roles should the Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Organization or such program, what types of strategy should play to bring a change, especially in the area of diplomacy, generally in media or mass media? Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Lydia, are you there? I'm seeing somebody's hand up. Do you want to ask a question? Or is it Adama Amanat? You want to ask a question? Because you want to move to the next speaker. You want to ask a question, I want to pass the comments. Please make it brief for us. Thank you. So that Mrs. Anita will handle everything at once.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I would like to ask a question about the education and specialization, as Anita mentioned before. You know that when you want to be educated, education or specialization need like investment. And according to my case here in Chad, I need really to gain like some knowledges on climate change because I'm not a professional on that field. So how can we get a chance to be educated? Because here in our country, we don't have like special schools that can train people on climate change issues. And when we want to go to other country, it is a big problem for us sometimes. You have to have means first, or you have to look for fellowship. And the problem in fellowship, sometimes they need like more informations, and sometimes also according to the age. So that the eligibility criteria sometimes like not allow us to go and then to perform ourselves. So how can we do? So that is my question.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, Mrs. Anita, I'm sure you wrote them down. So the next 3 to 5 minutes, kindly help us answer them. Thank you. If Dr. Baputu can come to thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think from the very first question and the last question, it's similar because it's all boiling down to some kind of education. Where can you find some of these courses to take? And I always say that sometimes you don't officially need to have been enrolled in school to be able to take climate change courses. I mean, it's good if you're not a professional or you think you cannot afford it. What you can start doing is to go for some of these online courses, okay, where they are free. You do not need to pay for it, like the platform like the UN climate change courses, and it's a platform where I actually started, okay, and you'd have platforms like Coursera. You'd have platforms even for even YouTube, because people do have some kind of education or they go for conferences and it's being recorded on there. So sometimes I go on YouTube as well. And if you have an Apple device, you realize that even your Apple podcasts, there are lots of information in there where you can actually just play and listen. I understand with Spotify, you have to pay a little, some amount of money to have access on that platform. So there's lots of podcasts that have climate change education on it as well. And when it comes to locally, there are so many organizations that are offering some of these short courses in person trainings as well. So you go for a 1 week training session like the CDKN. Yes, CDKN offers this capacity building for people, which are all in-person trainings. Gaio as well does the same, SYND. I think when Doug did his presentation, he actually showcased some of these organizations that are really driving social impact as well, and even give and the Center for Climate Change as well. You know, that's of the University of Ghana, and just they're the ones organizing this session for us. It's also, I mean, a platform to educate us on what we do, and they organize a lot of other seminars as well, which when you join like this, you're able to learn, and even you get certificates for participating, and you can actually build network out of some of these platforms like what we are experiencing here today. So I'd want to say a very big thank you to you people for actually doing this. This is really impactful, and even the number of participants is really very good and very engaging. So what we do, so I think another question was about how are we able to get to maybe like underserved communities with our information of what we do. I just a little highlight on that. Yes, underserved communities is very difficult for them to even understand what you go and tell them that, oh, this thing guys, that's a result of global change. How they don't understand. It's so complex. Okay. It's so complex for them to understand. One way we are able to send out simple information is through Wikipedia. Okay, sometimes we are able to do through pictures, we're able to communicate what is actually happening in our environment. Okay, so that's Wikipedia. We're able to communicate in different so much forms, and social media as well, in telling our stories by reaching some of these underserved communities. If I let anything out. I don't know if Dr. Bafford also wants to come and add to address all the questions that were asked, but I think this is my last submission. So I want to say a very big thank you for you for giving me this platform to be able to share knowledge. I'm grateful.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Anita Ofuru. So we'll have our third and final speaker, who is in the person of Madame Jifa Adimle Popelampo. She's a PhD student at the University of Hull University in the UK. Welcome, Madam.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I would want to use this opportunity to thank the organizers for putting this together and for inviting me to speak at this webinar. Mine is just going to be about my personal journey and reflection about how I've navigated the climate change and sustainability space. It will be more skewed towards academia because that's where I find myself. But then I'll try and also reflect on the kind of people I've met along the way and how their journeys have also ended or where it's been led to. And then I think that Dr. Boafo and Mrs. Ofori have already laid a lot of groundwork into actions needed and then career opportunities in climate change. So my work here is just to be the icing on the cake where I just share my personal journey, mostly in academia, and then also reflect on the other people that have come along the way. Okay, so this is the format that this presentation is going to take. Sorry. So this is the format it's going to take. I'm going to reflect on my journey. I would also talk about other journeys that I've been privy to, and then the limitless possibilities that I have encountered within the space. Some suggestions or strategies to help guide people who are yet to enter the space, or even for those already in the space and would want to know how best to navigate it, and then some concluding remarks. So by way of starting, my journey has been a very interesting one. So when I was a kid, I remember when people asked me what I wanted to become, I used to say medical doctor, not because I had the passion for it, but I think that was what my big sister wanted to do. And so I thought it was cool. And so I would also repeat it. Then it got to a point in my life where I felt that maybe being in the media space would be nice. At least you get to appear on TV, you get to maybe act a movie, people get to see you. So I thought, yeah, that would also be interesting. But moving forward, when I got to the university, and then I got the opportunity to read geography and resource development at the University of Ghana, I felt that, yes, this is where I belong. And so that was where my actual journey actually started. So I read geography, sociology, and then Chinese for my undergraduate program at the University of Ghana. Then I proceeded to do my first master's, which was MSc in climate change and sustainability studies at the Center for Climate Change at the University of Ghana. Then I got the opportunity to go and pursue a 1+3 program at the University of Hull. And the 1+3 program involved me doing and then for me to transition into a PhD in human geography. So that is how my journey has been. So I'm currently in my second year. I have like a year and a few months to go. And my focus now, or my niche and my research interest, focuses on the city or the urban space, how we interact with it, how we navigate it, and most importantly, how to make it inclusive and resilient, drawing from perspectives from climate change. So that's a little bit about me and my journey into the space through an academic lens. So other journeys that I've also been privy to is when I joined the MSc Climate Change program, I met different people from different backgrounds. People had first degrees in biochemistry, in architecture, in finance, in ecology, in governance and policy, in communication, and so much more. And so I thought this was very interesting. Then I also got to understand the various interactions and intersectionalities amongst our various backgrounds and how we can help push this climate agenda. And so people came into the space with different backgrounds, and then they also had a goal with what they wanted to use the degree for. So for example, I had a friend who has an architecture background, and his goal was to build more green, sustainable buildings. And so in his architectural designs, he would use materials which are environmentally friendly, and then he will also use electricity and other materials that are more sustainable to the environment to push that climate change agenda. There were also other people from policy and governance. So there were lawmakers in my class whose goal was to understand the issues and evidences of climate change so that they can help impact policy. There were also those who were interested in communication. So the idea was to understand the impact of climate change, to be able to communicate it better, especially how to communicate climate change in our local dialect, how to communicate terms like sustainability, like resilience, like inclusivity, so that people at the local level could also join into the space of climate change, and then collectively we could all come together to kind of fight this canker. So with the diverse interests meant also diverse results and outcomes. And after the program, I've had colleagues who have moved on to join the UNFCCC. I've had colleagues who have moved on to join the World Bank. I've had colleagues who have moved on to join the Green Climate Fund. Others have gone back to other ministerial positions. Others have funded new NGOs. People have started new green businesses and all that. And so for the opportunities and possibilities in the climate change space, I would say it's very endless. And I'm happy to continue this conversation with whoever is interested in whatever space they find themselves. So yes, that's a little bit about that. Then next steps. So because this space is very broad and very fast, most of the times it's easy to get lost, and it's sometimes easy to chase other people's interests and then dreams. And then sometimes it makes it difficult for people to also focus on their niche and develop it to the best of their abilities, because other spaces might be looking more interesting or more lucrative or more appealing. But the first word of caution I would want to give is that you have to be true to yourself. So being true to yourself is understanding who you are as a person, your capabilities, your skill sets, and then your interests, because it's very easy for you to say, oh, my friend is starting a green business, and so far he or she has won maybe £50,000 or $50,000, and so it looks lucrative, so let me jump in there. Perhaps you'll be more better in a communication space or in a development space or in a teaching space. And so if you come into the space understanding where you would want to develop to, then it makes it easier for you to build on the skill sets that you need than just moving and following people around because what they seem to be doing seems more lucrative. Also, the second thing I would want to add is that you have to understand the path that you have chosen. So understanding the path that you have chosen means that for somebody like me, I chose an academic path, and I know it would require some, like spending some number of years in school. It will also require reading and analyzing a lot of document policies, doing reviews, writing, publishing, and all that. And so it also requires that I attend conferences, I network, I'm able to bridge that gap between theory and practice and all that. Someone who is maybe invested in business will also need to understand that they would need to maybe know how to market a product, know how to pitch a product to somebody, know how to develop a business proposal, know how to convince people to come on board and all that. And so you begin by knowing who you are, then you also understand the path that you are choosing. And then it's easy for you to do this when you are able to work with a lot of mentors, and then you're also able to build networks, which Dr. Boafo and then Mrs. Ofori have touched upon. And so having mentors is very key. Dr. Boafo was my supervisor, and he still is my supervisor because once a supervisor, always a supervisor. And they have been very keen to my journey because anytime I hear a stumbling block, I'll come to him and like, how do you navigate this obstacle, or how do you address this and all that? And they're more than happy and willing to give you a listening ear. And so for whatever space you find yourself, you should find people who have done or are doing something that you would want to do so that they can give you some advice and they can also guide you. And then also building networks. So you build networks. You can build networks at any level, at the local level, at the international level, at the community level, neighborhood level. So it's just to be able to drive your ideas through people. And so once you're able to do it, you get to know that, oh, maybe you want to start a company and then you are the brain behind it. But then you would also need a marketer. You will need a communication specialist who will do PR and all that. And so if you're able to build networks, then it makes it easier for whatever path you have chosen to become very easy or a bit straightforward. And then also in this space, you have to keep an open mind. I say keep an open mind because there are new technologies evolving every day. There are new ideas coming up. And so whatever space you find yourself, don't be rigid, be very flexible, and then be open to ideas. If you find that maybe Gaio is maybe using Spotify to do a podcast and they have been able to target a certain group of people and you are within that space, you could also learn how you could use similar softwares like Spotify and other devices to also push your agenda. And so don't be rigid and say, oh, for us, we only use maybe Facebook or X. And so if it's not that, then we are not interested. Or we only do podcasts, we don't do vlogs, or we only do workshops, we don't do stakeholder engagements. No, the space is very flexible. And if you keep an open mind, you'll be able to bring in a lot of people on board to be able to push this agenda of reducing the impact of climate change, which we are all facing. So in conclusion, I would say that this world is truly our oyster, and wherever we find ourselves, we can be the change makers that we so desire to be, and the change that we want is not so far from us. But if we reach out, we'll be able to cause the change that we want to see. And so basically, that's where I'm going to end. And I would want to thank the organizers once again for the opportunity. And I'm open to a number of questions. So thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Ugccssa.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you very much, Madam, for that wonderful presentation. This is Bernard Ombati. Once again, talking from Kenya, Nairobi, a compliance and security expert in climate change. My questions goes to you directly on issues of scholarship. You have a very wonderful background on academic concerning this climate change. Will you consider, or in future, will you consider through this organization, which has made today a very wonderful presentation to us, will you consider to continually giving us some expertise, skills, and knowledge on, because now climate change is evolving daily, is changing daily.
Right.
This one will be not an end of this meeting. It will be a continuous meeting, continuous civic education and skills, impacting knowledge to us youth who are champions in our country, for example, Kenya. I'm grateful because I see most of the West African countries, Nigeria, Ghana, are doing better in climate change as compared to my country where I am. I feel so disoriented and disconnected, but because of this organization of yours, as just highlighted some issues which I was not aware. So will you consider to be doing this through this organization, the Ghana University, doing some skills through or this will be the last presentation from your hand? And the second question is, will you be able also to kind of have a scholarship sponsorship to those youths who are championing climate and climate change and impacting knowledge from those organizations? Thank you very much, Madam, for that one.
Okay. So thank you so much, Bernard, for your question. So about me joining this webinar to talk more about scholarships, it would be dependent on the organizers. As and when I have the time, I'm happy to join and then share more insights about school applications, writing of statements of purposes, proposals, and all that. So I'm happy to join the webinar and do that. But then it would be subject on what the organizers want to do and also my availability, because I'm going to enter my writing phase and it's going to be a little bit busy. But then as and when they call upon me, I'm more than happy to share some knowledge and insights into that. So that is no problem at all. And then about scholarships for young people, for most of the organizations that are coming up, I think that it's a package deal now for them to do some kind of corporate social responsibility, for lack of a better term, where they either do stakeholder engagements or workshops or fund some projects that are being championed by young people. And so for the organizations that Dr. Wafo shared, I think we can look into those organizations. Also, the UNFCCC, the UNDP, the UN itself have a lot of training programs that a lot of young people can sign up onto. So they have internship programs, some last 3 months, some are 6 weeks and all that. So there are all those opportunities that people can tap into and get a skill or get to work with the international community. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for that answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
All right.
welcome.
I think Francis has a question. Francis, you want to ask a question? The other people who are on the call, do you have a question? Please feel free to ask your questions. Okay. You have
All
about
right.
5 minutes.
Okay, so my question is, you made a point of staying on course, what the course that you have chosen to stay on. Nationally, as the path, staying on your path. Nationally, as a nation, Ghana, if you get the opportunity to advise us in terms of this climate change issue, as compared to global climate change, education and all that thing, what do you want Ghana to do? And if like local, when you come to the local communities to, what will you tell the local communities do? And we, the individual climate change advocate or educated. Why I'm asking you that question is that at COP28, before COP28, the global community has promised Africa that they will give us $100 billion to mitigate climate change and all that thing. But at COP28, that promise was watered down. The issue rules that all the grants, all the monies that they have been sending to Africa is part of the $100 billion. So it's not that they are going to put $100 billion together and send it to us. In that sense, nations like Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and rest need to do their own way of having other finance to mitigate their climate change issues. When you come to Ghana, most of our conversation has been in hotels, seminars, workshop, conferences. But if you go to the community, you see that the women are suffering. Last year, we had only 2-month drought, and our farmers lost 3.5 billion Ghana cedis. That's the
Right.
record from Ministry of Agriculture and others.
Mhm.
So, do you have any means that we can deal, let me say, locally with the climate change so that those who are not at the conferences, who are not at the big hotels, can understand this climate change? What thing I do is I do in a local language, like in P. If the people speak P, I explain the climate change in P. But with that, it's not enough. They need capacity in addition to maybe using a local language to also do it. So, do you have anything in addition to what I am asking? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Francis. So your question is, I think, so packed, but I'll try my best to unpack some of the issues that you have raised in there. So when it comes to issues of climate change and climate mitigation and adaptation, I think that Ghana has very fantastic policies, and then you could trace these policies looking at our nationally determined contributions and how we want to combat and tackle climate change. However, most of our challenges has been the implementation, it's seen at the implementation phase. So on paper, we would want to maybe cut down the use of kerosene, we would want to cut down on the use of fuel, we would want to do a lot of LPG. But then the issue always comes up with implementation, because it's not just saying I would want maybe 80% of Ghanaian households to use LPG, but then you have to create the infrastructure for it. You also have to communicate, you also have to build advocacy and all that. And so when it comes to the implementation, it's like we have different actors on board, and the main bodies that are in charge of these implementations are sometimes handicapped. They will tell you they don't have enough resources. They also tell you they are handicapped. And so that is when some of these NGOs come in. But because NGOs are receiving money from donors, donors also have specific targets and goals that they would want to reach. And so sometimes that's when this fragmentations and then disjoints and then gaps all come in. And so for Ghana, I think that we could start by having a structure that we can all follow. And then for people at the local level, especially NGOs, they could also meet. So at the international level, people like World Bank, like JICA, like Swiss Bank, what they do is they have stakeholder meetings, and then they all meet to discuss the agenda that they have for a sector. So if somebody wants to maybe increase rural electrification, or somebody wants to boost agriculture, or somebody wants to build roads, they all meet. Then they share these ideas, then they're able to strategize so that we don't have duplication of projects. And so for our local level, if we could start with developing a blueprint where we can have these organizations meet to kind of develop their priorities for the year, so that at the end of the day, we can tackle different sectors, other than having one NGO targeting maybe women in maybe maize planting, another coming back to tackle the same group, because that is what the proposal they sent to the donor, and that was the money they got. And so all this disjoints and fragmentations and all that is reduced, then we can then champion a cause and know that at the end of the day, this was the target we set and this was how best we're able to achieve it. So in my humble opinion, that is some of the issues that I've identified, and those are some of the plausible solutions that I think would help champion reducing impacts of climate change in Ghana. I hope that helps.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you so much. Okay. Lydia, you can take over.
Thank you very much. So I think I'll summarize everything that was said and highlight some key points. Our first speaker, Dr. Yao Ajimai-Boafo, highlighted the importance of youth-led climate action, awareness and policy advocacy. And he also discussed some school drives and community-based sustainable initiatives. Our second speaker, also Mrs. Anita Ofuru, highlighted job and career opportunities in climate change, sustainable agriculture, and environmental consulting. And our last speaker, who is a graduate student, Madam Jifa, also give us the academic journey of climate change from undergraduate to graduate school both masters and PhD. So I'll say thank you to all our speakers. At this point, we invite Bernard Opoku, the PRO for the University of Ghana Climate Change and Sustainability Students Association, to give us vote of thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Lydia Kushika, for the opportunity. First of all, I would like to thank the Almighty God for such a great opportunity given to us today to engage in such an interactive and insightful event. On behalf of the Climate Club Executive Body, I would like to express a heartfelt gratitude to everyone who contributed to the success of this event. And also a deepest appreciation goes to our distinguished speakers, Dr. Yajaman Boafo, Mrs. Anita Ofori, and Madam Zifa Adimle Poplampo for your great expertise and valuable insights you shared with us today. You have broadened our understanding on youth-led climate action and also some of the career paths which are available in climate change. And also a special thanks to our patrons, Professor Kwaju Ousu and Dr. Yao Ajaman Boafo, who presented first on some of the youth-led actions. A great thanks also to our moderator, Lydia Kusika, and our convener barrister for steering the program and ensuring a great smooth flow for the program. I know we've had a lot of opportunities presented onto us today, and as youth, it's time for us to think strategically and pursue some of these opportunities in the green economy and also contribute meaningfully to the fight against climate change. Thank you all and have a great evening.
All right. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Bernard. Lydia, before you come in, I want to make a brief announcement. Okay. Hello.
Can you go ahead?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, so those of us on the call, you're supposed to receive certificates of attendance. So I've shared a message. I'm going to share it again for the last time. If you didn't fill it, kindly make sure you fill the form. We will share your certificate with you, and I'll see to it that I share the PowerPoint and other materials or any other resource that will also benefit you. I will send everything via email. Okay. And I have some people wanted to collaborate with us, so I'm leaving our email in the chat box. Okay. I'll leave association's email, then my personal email, so that you can reach out to us. We are always ready and available to collaborate with you on any issue. And those of you who just joined, this is the University of Ghana Climate Change and Sustainability Student Association. We work under our mother department or Center for Climate Change. Okay, so if you don't know us, that's it about us. And before we leave, I would like to recognize some people who are part of us today. Okay, yeah, so we have students from the Center for Climate Change. They are part of it. I could see some of my mates, Michael. I could see who again? Yeah, I could see Nyabu, Orlando, Olivia. I could see all of you. Thank you all for joining. Okay, and I could see some of club members too over here. Thank you all for joining. So these are a few important announcements that you should take note. Thank you. So please proceed and wrap this up. Lydia, over to you.
Thank you very much. We'll have our closing prayer by Sadina as we end. We started with God and we'll definitely end with Him. So Sadina, please.
Thank you very much once again. I begin my prayer in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear God, thank you for the knowledge shared today. Help us use it to care for our planet and make a positive change. Please give us the strength and the courage to put our words into actions. Bless our efforts to protect the earth and keep guiding us towards a sustainable future. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very
Amen.
much.
So thank you all for joining. Thank you so
Amen.
much.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Bye.